What were the first 2, 3 things you looked for during acquisition, or even before when you're assessing the acquisition? What goes through your mind? You're looking at a dealership. What are these key questions you're asking yourself?
I think the first question is this something we actually want to pursue? Is this something we want to do? For us, it made sense geographically because it's actually close to a couple of our other dealerships. So that was one of the reasons that was attractive to us. We also felt it would give us an opportunity to gain more market share with that brand since we already had 2 of them. But going in, like literally walking in that day and, introducing myself to the team and that was the first time I had ever actually been at the facility on the property. I think most of that is just taking in kind of the environment and who's there and what it's like. And I already had exposure to the people, kind of having an understanding of it, but also the limitations of the facility, the, kind of improvements that need to be made, areas that have been neglected. All of these are kind of things that were speaking to me what I want to.
Yeah, I can totally understand. I want to get more into the intricacies of how you actually operate your business. So we spoke about differentiation. Let's first touch on that community feel, like family business, right? Potential differentiator. And I think you could make the argument both ways. I could argue that it's a differentiator for a positive. I could argue that it's a drawback. I'm curious to know, what do you do when you say, whether it's family oriented community, what do you really do? Is it like philanthropy, or is there a different way you actually operate your process?
Philanthropy is part of it, being connected with important things in the community. That's important. I think what I'm more getting at is, my dad and I, my brother, we work at these facilities. We're invested in the people that we hire and bring on. The values that are important to us are communicated to our team consistently each and every day. My team has an opportunity to understand what's important to me consistently and what has been important to our organization for the last 50 years. We started as a Cadillac dealership. That was our first operation. And, when you start kind of in the luxury business, it already to a certain degree is in your DNA to be taking care of customers to a level that might be different from a volume operation. So that's something we've kind of tried to carry forth from each generation to the next. I really do believe that has an impact. Where my office is literally on the showroom floor of the Toyota dealership. So inevitably, like I'm walking by, I'm seeing our team, having conversations with our leadership team. We're meeting once a week, and much of that call is kind of talking about values, talking about the type of business we are, talking about the type of communication we have with one another as a team. I'm sure the argument could be made that maybe these things are achievable in a public organization when your name is on the building and you have had long-standing relationships with the faces and customers that are coming in. There is something unique about that. And if every dealership kind of had that, if every remaining dealership was a family business, it might be a different scenario. But as there are becoming fewer and fewer of us, kind of to the point I was saying earlier, I think it's an opportunity to kind of double down on distinguishing ourselves for some of those routes.
Are you thinking about acquisitions? Is that something that's been piquing your interest for the next, 2 years or so, or is that still not on the horizon?
Yeah, well, I shouldn't say that we've stayed away from acquisitions entirely. We took on an Open Point Nissan dealership in 2020, and actually we launched that operation as a dual operation with our Infiniti dealership, and that was the first one in the country at the time, an Infiniti Nissan under one roof. Just prior to that, we had done a substantial renovation of our Infiniti dealership, doubled the size of it, and we had the room and space, and the manufacturer cooperated with that. So we did that, and then we actually had an Open Point Nissan dealership in 2021 as well in our neighboring town in Silver Spring. And then we did buy another Nissan dealership in 2023 as well. So we've added a couple franchises to the portfolio in the last few years. We haven't stayed away from expansion entirely. However, I will say that, those have been educational, both for myself and for our team.
Is there anything else you're doing that is unique? Again, you're clearly successful given by just your longevity, and your reviews are phenomenal. So you're definitely doing a good job there. But are you doing anything else like really progressive, differentiated from the marketplace?
One thing that's kind of been huge for us in the last couple of years has been pre-owned vehicle acquisition, with kind of the scarcity of used cars out there and some of the challenges that we have had trying to source them. That's kind of become a very big priority for us. So much so where I actually was connected with someone who was launching a startup that was kind of in this space. I actually invested in it, and that company is called Lasso. And we were one of the first dealers to sign up and get going with Lasso. And that's just been another strong tool for us to get out there and source inventory.
Lasso is a partner of the pod. Nate's been on the pod, the CEO. So I'm very, very familiar. Tell me more about that. Like, are you acquiring lots of used cars from there right now, or what have you been doing?
Yeah, we've had a lot of success with it. So kind of the way that it works, the concept behind it is that it is a kind of an auction-based system where a customer will list a car online, and participating dealers will have an ability to go in, look at all the critical information about that car and then can subsequently put in a bid for it. Whoever is in top bid has an opportunity to buy it. Last I spoke with Nate, I think we had purchased over $5 million worth of cars from them since it started. Slowed down a little bit this summer. I think that might be just indicative of some of the challenges we've had buying cars in general. But I think year to date, between the two dealerships when we piloted it at, we bought, it was 55 cars.
What's your ratio of new to used at your dealer group? How many new cars to used cars?
It's about 2 to 1.
2 to 1, 2 new, 1 used?
Yep. Trying to grow it, but
Trying to grow the used side more?
the used side for sure.
Yeah, right. That is pretty progressive. So that's definitely a good strategy. Are you doing anything else on the used acquisition side? I mean, clearly trade-ins. Are you buying from auctions? I mean, where else are you sourcing?
Probably the most important thing that we've done with that was a few years ago, we didn't have any type of formal acquisition team that was dedicated to doing this. And at 2 of our locations, we built out actual acquisition teams, and their sole responsibility is to go out, try to source inventory, whether it be from the public, whether it be from a source like Lasso or some of the other partners that we have. Prior to that, we didn't really have any organized or formal way for sourcing cars beyond our used car managers doing it or our wholesale guys doing it. We kind of made efforts to incentivize our salespeople. We tried to work it into pay plans for our sales managers, and just inevitably, I don't know if it's something psychologically different for a salesperson about, wanting to go buy a car versus selling one, but we didn't have a whole lot of success with it. So we moved someone that was in kind of a assistant used car manager type role into a dedicated acquisition role, customer facing in the store at one of our locations. And it worked so well there that we ended up doing that at another location as well. And they're both kind of just sourcing cars for those areas.
I love this trend of people that are driving value, that are taking equity stakes. So I'll give you an example. Like you see, online creators who are launching different brands, right? Where they have actual equity stakes, or dealers who I've seen dealers angel invest and just generally tech invest in the last, 5 years more than ever. Even when I was raising money at my last company, left and right, people are like, hey, you want to be introduced to, this dealer group, that dealer group. They have a family office and they do venture investing. So the dealers are driving the value, right? And so I think it's a great way to align those incentives and have upside in what you're driving. I think it's awesome. Do you invest in auto tech in general, or is this kind of like a one-off opportunity for you?
That was the first one so far. But to your point, I think there's naturally a part of being a dealer when you get some exposure to these types of concepts, you're a little bit resistant because you're like, well, maybe we could come up with something like that. Or maybe, do we really want to participate in that? Because maybe it's will be some sort of competitor to ours. But, my view of that is these things are taking place inevitably, whether we're a part of them or whether we're supporting them. It's worked out pretty well for us. It's just another avenue to get us some pre-owned cars.